You're listening to the relaxing, soothing, and stress-free sounds of Sacramento Smooth Jazz.
All right, smooth jazz enthusiasts, I am thrilled to introduce to you a true virtuoso of the strings. More than just a guitarist, he's a 13-time Billboard #1 artist and producer. He's definitely reshaping the smooth jazz landscape with every note and composition. Beyond his mastery of the guitar, he's also a sought-after writer and producer, infusing his unique touch into the works of many. And let's not forget his academic prowess. Boasting a doctorate in musical arts from the University of Southern California, his understanding of music runs as deep as the melodies he creates. Today, we'll go into his journey, uncover the intricacies of his creative process, and explore his latest release, Up Top. So please join me in welcoming to Sacramento Smooth Jazz, the phenomenal Adam Hawley. Adam, how are you today?
I am doing fantastic. I owe you a check in the mail for that introduction. You are too kind. And excited to chat with you about some music.
I am thrilled to have you. And listen, whenever you play, everyone can see how enthusiastic you are. You are enjoying yourself, who you are collaborating with on stage. You guys are having a great time. Everyone's smiling. You are just truly in the moment. And so, man, call me a fan. That's okay. But hey, I'm glad to have you.
I'll take it. Well, no, for me, if the audience is having a good time, I'm having a good time. And so it's all about the fan experience and getting the audience involved, getting them singing along, getting them clapping, getting them dancing. It's been one of the tenets of my live show. And we like to just have a good time.
Let's go back in time just a little bit. From being handpicked by Maurice White himself of Earth, Wind & Fire to achieving 13 Billboard #1 hits, could you share a pivotal early moment that set the tone for your smooth jazz journey?
Just the thought of being in the, music industry, trying to make a living, that it really felt like a far off dream. And I did start touring early on. I was in a bluegrass band when I was 12, 13, and then I was in a blues rock band when I was in high school. But big shift was moving to Los Angeles 2002 to study music, and I went to the University of Southern California. And one of my professors there, Richard Smith, was a great contemporary jazz artist, and seeing him perform was a big shift for me, and that really kind of put the thought in my head of becoming a recording artist way back in 2002.
Wow, over 20 years ago, a positive influence from a professor. That's great.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, so going from there, I always had a thought of making a record, and I actually started on it in 2005, but I ended up touring in support of a lot of other artists. So in 2008, I got my big break. I started touring with the Manhattan Transfer, and then I went on to tour with Natalie Cole, Jennifer Lopez, Layla Hathaway, Brian McKnight. And then I also started touring in the contemporary jazz world. I started working with Brian Culbertson in 2013 and Dave Koz. And so that's when my passion got reignited. I know originally you brought up, how did I end up getting signed? So I promise I'm getting to that eventually. I actually was I was carpooling with a good friend of mine, Greg Manning, and he was signed to Kalimba. And he had mentioned to me, he said, hey, whenever you finish your record, let me know. I'd be happy to let them hear it. And in fact, I was really fortunate. Pretty much all of the labels that were viable at the time all got a hold of my record through various means. Just people were real excited about it and believed in it. And so I had several offers, but I couldn't pass up the chance to work with Kalimba Music, which was Maurice White's label, and the A&R exec who was instrumental in that. His name was Ted Joseph, and he was a big part of Prince's career, breaking Prince. He was with Warner Brothers for 30 years. And so, to be a part of that team was incredible, and definitely a great way to start my recording career for sure.
To be around all of that on tour and being on tour and getting to know a number of different artists and supporting them in what they're doing, I'm sure that had an influence on what you're doing right now. Did that actually influence the way you write now yourself and how you produce for others?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely pick up your influences over time. I mean, I've always been a big fan of the old school, of especially the 70s and the 80s, and Earth, Wind & Fire, and Stevie Wonder, and the Gap Band, and Michael Jackson and Prince. And so all of those are influences in my writing. But certainly being able to work with so many of the greats in contemporary jazz were a big part too. And also putting all that together at the same time, wanted to make sure to have my own unique sound. So I was a fan of George Benson and of Norman Brown and of these great guitarists, but I really had a distinct thought in my mind that I didn't want to recreate what they were doing, but go on my own path and have a unique sound. And for that reason, that's why I self-produced my first album and have gone on to produce all of my records. And what's great about that is I was able to definitely develop my own sound, but then now I've been able to work with a lot of other artists and produce them. And that's been just so much fun. Just in the past couple of years, I've been able to work with Steve Cole doing his new album that's just about to come out. Got a song I just produced for Julian Vaughn that's top 5 on Billboard. I've had a couple number ones with Blake Aaron producing for him. I work with Paula Atherton, just so many people. And I really love it because not only do I get a chance to work on my own music, but I just get to be creative all day, every day. If I'm not on the road, I'm usually at home working on music for people. So it's been such a blast. And now we're keeping it in the household. We're working on my wife's first project. Her new single just came out a couple months ago. It's doing great. It's already a top 40 hit. And so we're working on her new album, which is going to come out next year. And so, yeah, we're just keeping it rolling. We're having a lot of fun with it.
If you're just tuned in, I'm speaking with the smooth jazz guitarist himself, Adam Hawley. Now, Adam, I'm glad you mentioned Kat because I'm enjoying her single, and we're going to get back to that for sure because I want to know more about what's happening with her future project. Now, with respect to your sound, one of the things in which I notice is when you have produced for other folks. Now, of course, I listen to music a lot and you do too. So we have a tendency to hear things more than the average listener. But some of our listeners, they pick up on a lot and they can tell your signature sound. You're a highly sought after writer and producer. And many folks have been just chomping at the bit to get to you. They search you out to get help from you. What is your process? For example, let's say a pianist, when it comes to what they're trying to do, what's your process when it comes to helping them?
Well, the number one thing is preserving their personality, because the one of the most important aspects of making records is having your own voice and your own sound within that. And so that's the first thing I'm considering is, okay, where does this, if it's instrumentalist or if it's a vocalist, what kind of grooves do they like? Are they attracted to, range is certainly important. Not so much piano. Piano is kind of an instrument you can play really all over the place, but especially any of the horns or any of the voices, you want to think, not too high, not too low based on where they're comfortable. So those are really important factors. In terms of like the track, there's any number of ways that I'll get started. Sometimes I'll have a track that I've started and then whoever I'm working with will write on top of that. Sometimes some of the artists I work with will make a rough demo and then I'll help them take that the rest of the way. And then the third way is sometimes just making something from scratch. One of us or both of us will just have kind of a concept of, hey, I kind of want to do like a dance tune. So that kind of informs you right away. Okay, tempo. So we know we're going to be somewhere 110 to 120. And then, probably, you have a certain groove kind of in mind, certain set of chords. And so that can kind of inform you and be a starting point in terms of, how you're going to write. But yeah, the most important thing in all of that is me considering their personality, their style, and really helping make that shine even more than it already does and support it.
I want to get into your latest track. And I'm finding that for me personally, I'll be transparent. First 15, 16 seconds of it, I'm listening to that over and over again because the way it touches me, it's fabulous. So when it comes to creating your own music, what's the process for you? Do you just sit there and you're just kind of thinking about some things? What is inspiring you?
Well, I'm always writing just because I've got a set amount of material I know I want to release. In fact, this is my most ambitious release schedule ever. I released the single Up Top last week, and then I've got a Christmas album coming out in October, and then I've got another full-length album coming out in March, and then my wife's album is going to come out in probably June or July. Long story short, I've got to have a lot of material available, and then not to mention all of the people that I'm producing for as well. Part of it is just writing all the time. What a lot of people don't realize is writing is a lot like practicing, like working on your scales and working on your licks and your chop. It's okay to write and for a track to not really, become anything. Sometimes you write and that's a journey, and it's the next track that you do ends up becoming a hit, So like my folder right now for my personal releases is up to like 60 songs that I'll pick from for the next project. And I'm doing the same thing for my wife. We're getting started on the rest of her album. And so we've got about 5 or 6 tracks set aside that I think might work for her that we'll try to write to. A lot of people are doing more of a single-based approach and they're releasing one song at a time. I'm still a big believer in the traditional method of releasing albums and having fans get a chance to see your whole personality over the course of 10 songs. I really want those 10 songs to also really belong together and to not be monotonous, and you don't have too much of the same thing, and really take them through a journey of those 10 songs. And so I'll even take off a song that's a really great song of an album because, well, I have something else like that. I don't want 2 of the same thing. People might say, well, hey, that was a great song, why take off? But I really believe, and I've found that, you know, the people that enjoy my music really appreciate that. I've gotten that comment over and over, man, I can put your album on and I can listen from the beginning to the end. I don't have to skip any track. And that's really important to me because when people dig deeper, there's more for them to find instead of less.
Yes. That's one thing I've noticed about your music. I can actually put on your CD, you know, I can put you on, and it's because you have a collaboration of other people on there, and the way you put your music together. For me, I can listen to it from beginning to end, just as you mentioned. I agree with that because it doesn't sound the same. You have, you know, a myriad of sounds, as some would say, a cornucopia of sounds that really mesh well together. Now, what I want to ask you is that with respect to Up Top, your latest single, it's creating quite a buzz. Could you give us some insight into the inspiration behind this particular track and how it fits into the evolution of your musical style?
Yeah, well, my last couple singles were a little bit more laid back, which is fine. They were kind of like more kind of groove oriented. And so that's another thing too. I just never want to just, you know, people to kind of expect what's coming next. And so I felt like it was time to push the envelope and do something a little bit more kind of in your face, a little bit more energetic, a little faster tempo, a little bit more vibe to it. And so that's really what I was going for, is just doing something a little different. And summertime, you know, feels like a great time to have a real energetic in your face kind of track. And yeah, so it ended up being a really fun tune. I had a lot of fun working on it. I actually did it in about a week. I got home off of the Dave Koz cruise and it had to be finished in a week. And so I basically got about 10 days. And yeah, I co-wrote that with the great keyboardist, Caleb Middleton. And then I finished up the production and the mixing and got a great cast of characters. Some of the people I've had on a lot of my records: Mel Brown on bass, Eric Valentine on drums, Ramon Islas on percussion, Donald Hayes on sax, and I believe Carnell Harrell did some keyboards. And then I did all the guitars, obviously, and some keys and some programming. Yeah, I'm really proud of it. I think that it's an ambitious song yet in terms of just trying to just do a track that really just grabs you just right out of the bat. And that's important to me. Like I said, I don't want the audience to ever just kind of, oh, okay, here's another Adam tune. It's going to be another XYZ. You know, I just want to keep coming with different grooves, and I'm excited about this one. I'm really happy, and you're exactly right. Thank you for that. It started off with a bang, and it was the #1 most added song, and yeah, we're seeing a lot of spins already. Very excited.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm speaking with smooth jazz guitarist Adam Hawley. He's joining us today and giving us some insight into his process. We're talking about his music. Now, Adam, you have to be really thrilled about your current single right now. When I found out that you had something out, I was thrilled and I could not wait to listen to it. Now, let me just be honest here. My process is probably a little bit different than many people. You know, I listened to your song and then I just started again. The first 16 seconds, I listened to that part over and over again. And then I continued on just dissecting it because I really enjoyed the arrangement and the way you mixed it and the way you mastered it. And to me, it's a phenomenal track.
Well, I appreciate it because it's funny. I always tell artists I'm working with too, I said, your first impression is everything. And when someone hits play, it's got to be compelling and grab you and force you to continue listening and not just hit skip and like, okay, I got it, you know. And so, yeah, no, I'll spend finishing the mixing and checking the mix, you know, checking it across different systems and headphones and listening to it in the car. What is it? What do you feel when you hit play? What is that sensation? That, to me, that's everything. So I'm glad that you picked up on that.
Yes, indeed. You know, you're very methodical in your approach. I see how you're doing it, and it's obviously working well for you. So, of course, wish you much success, continued success in your endeavors. Now, I cannot leave this conversation without talking about your wife. She has a phenomenal track that's out right now, doing great. And you mentioned that the full album is coming out next year, but I'm curious, she knows what she wants to do. She knows what she wants it to sound like. You being a producer and a writer, how does that mesh there in the Hawley studio when you guys are working together? Of course, I'm assuming that she's getting what she wants, but what's that process like?
Yeah, well, this track actually was unbelievably smooth how it came together, but we had the benefit of she's done one song or sometimes in some cases two on each of my records. And so, we've already worked quite a bit in the studio over the years. And also she's been enlisted by a few of my clients to add vocals on some of the tracks I've produced for them too. So yeah, we spent quite a bit of time in the studio. And no, this track came together unbelievably quick. The core track was pretty much together, but then we got together and did a writing session in terms of the vocal parts. It was kind of shocking. I mean, it really, we pretty much got it together in a couple hours. And then some of the vocals that we did in that kind of writing session ended up on the final. I think the backgrounds are actually from that writing session. We got them the first time around, and then we came back later and did the lead vocal. Yeah, that song came together really quick, and we're really proud of it. As I mentioned a few minutes ago, it's already a top 40 tune, and so we're excited. It's a great debut for her, and it's just the beginning. We're going to have another single for her next year, and then the full-length project. Continue to push that. So the great thing about it, it's not something that we're trying to sell people on. She's been performing with me since I started touring in 2016. And yeah, one of the first questions people ask is, oh, where's her record? I want to buy her record. So they've been asking for it for 8 years now. So now, we're finally delivering, and I'm anticipating at the very least, we're going to move a lot of units at the CD line after each show. I fully expect much more than that, and her to continue her growth at radio. I'm already getting some inquiries on her doing some of her own solo shows. So we're having a lot of fun with it. She's already developed a fan base, a appetite for her music and her sound. And so it's on us to deliver that. And that's what we're doing. To get back to your question on family strife, we did have some challenges on my, I believe it was my second album. At the time, the song Hello was huge by Adele. In my mind, I was like, man, I had this groove I had come up with, and I thought to myself, man, it would be so cool to take this groove, which I thought was really compelling, and then take a famous song of today and then kind of transpose it onto this groove. And so really flip it to where when the track first starts, you really don't know what's coming until you hear the melody. So at the time, Hello was big. I said, oh, this would be great. And man, that was a real challenge, us kind of meeting of the minds and finishing that track. And so, yes, many marriage counseling sessions later, we survived. But no, it's kind of funny. Even to this day, she really doesn't performing it. And it's one of the most requested songs we get, where people are like, oh, why aren't you performing Hello? And so I keep telling her, hey, at some point we have to put it back in the show because people are asking for it. It's a great track. It's one of the ones I get comments on quite a bit. So I think I get some retribution in that fans are echoing the sentiment that I believe that it's a great track. So really, we just got to get her on board.
Exactly. Totally understand that. I'm glad you mentioned that people have been asking because, yeah, it's true. You're on tour and people, they want to hear her. And so you're like, hey, I'm not holding her back. You're being a good husband.
Yeah, no. And also, too, it's timing. We want her to have her own season time period of release. We don't want it right up against one of mine, so we can focus on the advertising and the rollout. As I mentioned, I've got my Christmas record in October, then my regular album in March. So we'll let that breathe a little bit and then come with hers in June or July. And we haven't set an official date, but yeah, we're looking at that. Yeah, and just so she can have her time and her rollout, and we focus on that. But no, it's definitely coming. We're just about to start doing some more writing, and before I get in the crunch of my March album, I want to knock out 2, 3, 4 tunes for her, kind of get front load that. And that's kind of the main thing, is that, as I mentioned before, just writing all the time is just not waiting until, oh, we need to finish an album in a month, let's write 10 songs. It's constantly chipping away at it. What's great about releasing this song, Keep On Keeping On, is that, okay, that's one done. So we don't have to do anything with that. So now it's about finishing 9 in the next 10 months. So if we do another 2, 3, 4 in the next couple months, then, we'll be halfway done. And then we can focus on the second half of the album, early 2024, and then finish it up.
I'm speaking with guitarist Adam Hawley. Now, how can our listeners reach you? How can they contact you on social media, websites? How can they find you online?
Yeah, well, the best place to start is adamhawley.com, and you can really get anywhere from there. You can get to all of my social media. If you want to purchase any physical copies of my vinyl or my CDs, I send all those out personally and sign them. And so, yeah, that's the best place to go is adamhawley.com, and you can really get anywhere else. And then probably the next best place is Facebook. That's where I tend to get most of my interaction. I mean, I'm on all of the social media platforms. I've got the largest following on Facebook, and that's real easy to find. Adam Hawley artist page, and you'll see I'm always posting concert footage and our tour schedule. So yeah, those are probably the two best places to go.
Adam, thank you very much for your time today. I really appreciate it. Our listeners do as well. So many blessings to you and your family. Thank you very much. And one last favor, would you do me the honor of introducing your latest track for our listeners?
I'm excited to have this new song out up top. It's my 15th single, and it already started off with a bang, #1 most added, and very excited. It's a hot song for the summer, and hope you enjoy it. It's my new single, Up Top.
Thanks for listening to Sacramento Smooth Jazz. To continue listening to Smooth Jazz 24/7, follow Sac Smooth Jazz on social media and listen by going to sacsmoothjazz.fm.